There is a specific taste in your mouth when you realize you have made a mistake that cannot be undone. It is metallic, sour. It is the taste of adrenaline flooding your system, not to help you fight a tiger or run from a predator, but to force you to confront the image of yourself shattering in a million pieces on the floor. We spend our entire lives running from this sensation. We build careers, relationships, and identities specifically designed to insulate us from the cold wind of error. We are taught from the moment we can hold a pencil that the red check mark is bad and the gold star is good. We are conditioned to believe that life is a linear ascent, a straight line up a mountain where stumbling is a sign of weakness. But what if I told you that this map we have been given is completely wrong? What if I told you that the stumble is not an interruption of the journey, but the only way the journey actually happens? Look at the device you are using to listen to this voice right now. Whether it is a smartphone, a computer, or a tablet, that machine is the great-great-grandchild of 1,000 exploded prototypes. It is the survivor of 1,000 bad ideas. Every sleek line and functioning circuit exists only because a different version failed, broke, overheated, or simply refused to work. We live in a graveyard of failures that we call civilization. And yet, when it comes to our own lives, we treat failure like a toxic waste we must bury in the dark. We hide our rejections. We delete our bad photos. We silence our awkward moments. We curate a museum of perfection that is entirely a lie. This audiobook is not about how to avoid falling. It is about how to fall with precision. It is about how to land, how to stand up, and most importantly, how to look that failure in the eye and say two words that will change the chemical structure of your future. Thank you. Welcome to the audio experience of Embrace Failures. Over the next hour, we are going to dismantle the fear that holds you hostage. We are going to walk through the fire of your past mistakes and extract the gold that has been melting there, waiting for you to claim it. We are not just going to tolerate failure. We are going to weaponize it. Chapter 1. The Biology of the Stumble. Let us begin by looking at the machinery of your own body. If you could watch a time-lapse video of yourself learning to walk as an infant, you would witness a brutal comedy of errors. You stood up, gravity pulled you down. You took a step, your balance failed. You crashed into the coffee table. You fell onto the carpet. You cried. And then, you did something miraculous. You did not formulate a philosophy that walking is not for you. You did not decide that you are an imposter who will never be a walker. You simply processed the data. Your brain, that 3-pound universe of electricity, registered the fall not as a moral judgment, but as a coordinate. It calculated the angle of your hips. It adjusted the tension in your leg muscles. It fired new signals to your inner ear. Every single fall was a data point that your brain used to triangulate the impossible physics of standing upright. You failed your way into walking. This is the fundamental algorithm of nature. Evolution itself is nothing more than a billions of years long process of trial and error. Nature produces a mutation. Does it work? No. That line ends. Does this one work? Yes, it survives. We are the survivors of 1 trillion failures. Your very DNA is a record of what worked after everything else died. So why, when we become adults, do we suddenly treat error as an anomaly? Why do we treat a failed business venture or a broken relationship as a sign that we are broken? The answer lies in how we have drifted from our biological roots into a psychological trap. We have replaced the feedback loop with the ego loop. When a child falls, they seek comfort, then they try again. When an adult falls, they look around to see who is watching. We have tied our survival not to our ability to adapt, but to our social standing. We fear that failure signals a drop in status, and for our tribal ancestors, a drop in status could mean expulsion from the group and death in the wilderness. But you are not in the wilderness. You are in a modern world where the consequences of most failures are not fatal. They are merely informative. When you stop viewing failure as a character flaw and start viewing it as raw data, you unlock a superpower. You stop flinching. You become a scientist in the laboratory of your own life. Imagine a scientist running an experiment. They mix two chemicals, expecting a blue reaction. The mixture turns red. Does the scientist cry? Do they go home and tell their partner they are a terrible person? No. They write it down. Mixture A plus mixture B yields red. That is a fact. It is a discovery. They have successfully identified one way that does not produce blue. This is the mindset we must adopt. When you lose a job, that is data. It tells you about the market, about your skills, or about the culture of that company. When you go through a breakup, that is data. It tells you about your compatibility, your communication style, and your boundaries. When you launch a project and no one buys it, that is the most honest feedback you will ever receive. The market is telling you exactly what it does not want, which brings you 1 inch closer to finding what it does want. Chapter 2. The Museum of Rejected Ideas. History is written by the victors, and biography is written about the successes. This creates a distortion field. We look at the icons of history, the inventors, the leaders, the artists, and we see their highlight reels. We see the statue in the park. We do not see the pile of rubble beneath the pedestal. Let us walk through the Museum of Rejected Ideas. Let us stop at the exhibit for a man named James Dyson. You know the name because of the vacuum cleaners that revolutionized the industry. But before the world knew his name, James Dyson spent 15 years in a shed. He did not build one prototype. He did not build 10. He built 5,126 prototypes. 5,126 times he failed. 5,126 times he went to his workshop, filled with hope, and watched his creation fail to do the one thing it was supposed to do. He went into debt. He mortgaged his house. His friends told him to give up. The experts told him it was impossible. If James Dyson had stopped at failure number 5,125, you would never have heard his name. He would just be a crazy man in a shed who lost everything. But he didn't view those prototypes as failures. He viewed them as the elimination of wrong answers. He famously said that he did not fail. He just found 5,000 ways that did not work. Let us move to the next exhibit. A writer named J.K. Rowling. Before she was a billionaire author, she was a single mother living on state benefits, writing in cafes while her baby slept because her apartment was too cold. 12 different publishing houses rejected the manuscript for Harry Potter. 12 separate groups of professional editors, people whose job it is to know what is good, looked at one of the most successful books in human history and said, "No thanks." Imagine the resilience required to put that manuscript in an envelope for the 13th time. Imagine the crushing weight of that 12th rejection letter. It would have been so easy, so logical to say, well, 12 experts have told me I am not good enough. I should stop. But she did not thank them for their rejection by stopping. She thanked them for the rejection by proving them wrong. She used the rejection to sharpen her resolve. The lesson from this museum is clear. Success is not a straight line. It is a messy, chaotic scribble. The people we admire are not people who never failed. They are simply the people who had the highest tolerance for the pain of failure. They had a higher threshold for embarrassment. They were willing to look foolish for longer than anyone else. If you are currently in a season of failure, take heart. You are in excellent company. You are standing in the same waiting room where Abraham Lincoln stood after losing 8 elections. You are sitting in the same chair where Walt Disney sat after being fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. You are walking the same path that every great soul has walked. The only difference between a tragedy and a success story is where you choose to put the period. If you stop now, it is a failure. If you keep going, it is just a plot twist in the first act. Chapter 3. The Ego and the Enemy. Why does it hurt so much? If failure is natural, and if failure is instructive, why does it feel like a physical blow to the chest? Why do we lie awake at 3 in the morning replaying a mistake we made 5 years ago? The culprit is the ego. The ego is the part of your psyche that demands to be seen as perfect, competent, and invincible. The ego is a fragile construct. It is built on the opinions of others. It thrives on validation and starves on criticism. When you fail, your ego screams. It tells you that you are under attack. It tells you that your worth as a human being has diminished. This is a lie. Your worth is intrinsic. It is not a stock price that fluctuates based on your performance. You are valuable simply because you exist, because you are a conscious observer of this universe. To embrace failure, you must separate your identity from your output. You are not your business. You are not your marriage. You are not your bank account. You are the creator of these things, but you are not the things themselves. If a carpenter builds a table and the table wobbles, the carpenter does not say, "I am a wobbly table." The carpenter says, "I built a table that wobbles. I need to fix the legs." We must learn to look at our failures with clinical detachment. We must cultivate a gap between the stimulus and the response. In that gap lies our freedom. There is a concept in Stoic philosophy called amor fati, a love of fate. It is the practice of accepting everything that happens, not just bearing it, but actually loving it. When the Stoic Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, war, or plague, he did not just endure it. He embraced it as fuel. He famously wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Think about that. The obstacle is not something to be removed so you can get back to the path. The obstacle is the path. When you lose a major client, the ego says, "This is a disaster." The Stoic says, "This is an opportunity to diversify my client base and improve my service." When you get injured and cannot run, the ego says, "My fitness is ruined." The Stoic says, "This is a chance to focus on flexibility, strength training, or mental fortitude." Embracing failure means thanking the universe for the resistance training. You cannot build muscle without resistance. You cannot build character without adversity. A life without failure would be a life without growth. It would be a soft, fragile existence. By failing, you are developing the callus of the soul. You are becoming harder to break. Chapter 4. The Art of the Post-Mortem. Gratitude for failure is not passive. It does not mean sitting in the rubble and smiling while your house burns down. It means aggressive analysis. In the aviation industry, when a plane crashes, the National Transportation Safety Board launches an investigation. They do not do this to blame the pilot or the manufacturer. They do it to find the root cause. They look at the black box. They analyze the wreckage. And once they find the cause, a faulty sensor, a tired pilot, a bird strike, they change the regulations. They update the training manuals. They redesign the engine. Because of that one crash, air travel becomes safer for millions of people forever. Every rule in aviation is written in blood. You must become the crash investigator of your own life. When you fail, do not just walk away. Do not just try to forget it with distraction or entertainment. Sit down with the wreckage. Perform a post-mortem. Ask yourself the hard questions. What exactly went wrong? Was it a failure of strategy? Was it a failure of execution? Was it bad timing? Was it simply bad luck? Be honest. If it was laziness, write that down. If it was arrogance, write that down. If it was ignorance, write that down. This is not about shame. Shame is useless. This is about data. Once you have identified the cause, implement a protocol to ensure it does not happen again. If you missed a deadline because you were disorganized, buy a calendar and set alarms. That is the protocol. If you chose a toxic partner because you ignored red flags, write down a list of non-negotiables for the next relationship. That is the protocol. When you do this, you redeem the failure. You give the suffering a purpose. If you fail and learn nothing, the suffering was in vain. That is a tragedy. But if you fail and learn a lesson that prevents 10 future failures, then that original failure was a bargain. It was a cheap price to pay for wisdom. We often hear the phrase, fail fast. This is a mantra in Silicon Valley. The idea is not that you want to fail, but that since failure is inevitable in the pursuit of innovation, you should get it over with as quickly as possible so you can get to the solution. Do not linger in the failure. Do not wallow. Extract the lesson. Say, thank you for this data, and pivot. Chapter 5. The Pivot and the Pirouette. Let us talk about the pivot. Sometimes, failure is the universe screaming at you that you are on the wrong road. We often have a rigid vision of what our life is supposed to look like. We grip the steering wheel so tight our knuckles turn white, trying to force the car down a road that has been washed out. Failure is the detour sign. Some of the greatest inventions in history were the result of a pivot after a failure. Penicillin was a mistake. Alexander Fleming left a petri dish uncovered, and mold grew on it. He could have thrown it away as a failed experiment. Instead, he noticed the mold was killing the bacteria. He pivoted from failure to the discovery of antibiotics, saving millions of lives. Post-it notes were a failure. A scientist at 3M was trying to create a super-strong adhesive. Instead, he created a weak adhesive that peeled off easily. It was a total failure for its intended purpose. But instead of scrapping it, they pivoted. They realized a temporary adhesive had a different value. What if your failure is actually a discovery waiting to be recognized? Maybe the fact that you failed at law school is not a tragedy, but a sign that your talents lie in art, or business, or teaching. Maybe the fact that your relationship ended is not a loss, but the necessary clearing of space for the person you are actually meant to be with. We must remain flexible. We must be like water. When water meets a rock, it does not argue with the rock. It does not try to smash through the rock. It flows around it. It finds a new path. It uses gravity to find the way forward. Embracing failure means letting go of the rigid picture you had in your head and accepting the reality in front of you. It means saying, okay, I am not where I thought I would be, but I am here, and from here, I can go anywhere. Chapter 6. The Fear of Other People's Opinions. Let's return to the social cost of failure. Often, we are not afraid of the failure itself. We are afraid of the audience. We are afraid of the "I told you so." We are afraid of the pity in our parents' eyes. We are afraid of the silence at the dinner party when someone asks, "So, how is the business going?" You have to realize something profound. Nobody is thinking about you as much as you are thinking about you. Everyone else is the protagonist of their own movie. They are worried about their own failures, their own bills, their own insecurities. To them, your failure is a blip on their radar. It is a scene in their background. And if there are people who genuinely mock your failure, who take pleasure in your stumbling, those people do not belong in your inner circle. They are demonstrating their own limitations. People who are actually in the arena, people who are actually building things and taking risks, never mock failure. They respect it. They know the taste of the dirt. When a fellow gladiator falls, they do not laugh. They extend a hand. So, if you are holding back because you are afraid of what they will say, you are giving your power to ghosts. You are letting hypothetical criticism stop real progress. There is a freedom that comes when you hit rock bottom. When you have failed publicly, when the worst has happened, you realize something shocking. You are still alive. The sun still rose. The coffee still tastes good. You are still you. The fear of the monster is always worse than the monster itself. Once you have faced the monster and survived, You become fearless. You have nothing left to lose. And a person with nothing to lose is the most dangerous person in the room. They are free to take the biggest swings. Chapter 7. Resilience as a muscle. Resilience is not a trait you are born with. It is not a genetic gift like blue eyes or being tall. Resilience is a muscle, and like any muscle, it only grows when you tear it. When you lift a heavy weight at the gym, you are literally tearing the microfibers of your muscle tissue. It is trauma. Your body rushes to repair that trauma, and in the process, it builds the fiber back thicker and stronger to withstand the load next time. Failure is the heavy weight. Emotional pain is the tearing of the fiber. If you spend your life lifting styrofoam weights, doing only easy things, taking no risks, your resilience muscles will atrophy. You will become emotionally brittle. The slightest wind will knock you over. But if you embrace the heavy weights, if you push yourself to the point of failure, you build a psychological armor. You learn that you can handle distress. You learn that discomfort is temporary. There is a term in psychology called antifragile. It was coined by Nassim Taleb. Something that is fragile breaks under pressure, like glass. Something that is robust stays the same under pressure, like a rock. But something that is anti-fragile gets better under pressure. The immune system is anti-fragile. It needs exposure to germs to learn how to fight them. The human bone is anti-fragile. It gets denser with impact. You are designed to be anti-fragile. You are designed to get better when things go wrong. But you have to let the process happen. You have to stop shielding yourself from the chaos. Say to the chaos, "Thank you. Make me stronger." Chapter 8. The Great Filter. There is a concept I want you to visualize. Imagine a giant sieve, a filter. Life puts these filters in front of every great achievement. Starting a business, there is a filter of bureaucracy, rejection, and financial stress. Writing a book, there is a filter of writer's block, editing, and criticism. Becoming a master athlete, there is a filter of injury, fatigue, and sacrifice. Most people hit the filter and stop. They say, "This is too hard. I failed. I guess it wasn't meant to be." But the filter is not there to stop you. The filter is there to keep out the people who don't want it bad enough. The failure is the test. It is the universe asking, how much do you really want this? If success were easy, everyone would have it, and it would lose its value. The value of an achievement is directly proportional to the amount of failure you had to endure to get it. The scarcity of success is created by the difficulty of the journey. So when you hit a wall, when you fail, recognize it for what it is. It is the great filter. It is weeding out the tourists. It is thinning the herd. If you can climb over that wall of failure, there is a lot less competition on the other side. Thank the failure for filtering out the competition. Thank the difficulty for making the prize valuable. Chapter 9. The Narrative Arc. Let's look at your life as a story. A story without conflict is boring. If you went to a movie where the hero decided to save the princess, walked to the castle, opened the door, and saved her without fighting a dragon or facing a challenge, you would ask for a refund. We crave struggle in our fiction because we know it creates meaning, yet we detest it in our reality. You need to become the editor of your own life story. When a chapter ends in failure, you do not close the book. You turn the page. You start a new chapter titled The Comeback. Some of the most inspiring people in the world are not those who had a smooth ride. They are the ones who overcame. Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first TV job and told she was unfit for television. Steve Jobs was fired from the company he started, Apple. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. When you look at these lives, you don't see the failures as ugly scars. You see them as badges of honor. You see them as the crucible that forged their greatness. You have to trust the narrative arc. You are in the middle of the book. You don't know the ending yet. This current failure, this dark night of the soul, might just be the inciting incident for the greatest act of your life. Chapter 10. Practical steps to embrace failure. We have talked about the philosophy. Now, let us talk about the practice. How do you actually do this on a Tuesday morning when your world is falling apart? Step 1. Feel the feeling. Do not suppress it. Give yourself a time limit to mourn. Say, I am going to feel miserable about this for 24 hours. Cry, scream, run, punch a pillow, process the cortisol, but set an alarm. When the 24 hours are up, the pity party is over. Step 2. Write it down. Externalize the failure. Take it out of your looping thoughts and put it on paper. I failed at X because of Y. When it is on paper, it is an object you can study, not a ghost haunting your head. Step 3. Find the at least. This is a reframing technique. I lost my job, but at least I have my health. I lost the money, but at least I learned how not to invest. I failed the test, but at least I know what I need to study. Gratitude is the antidote to despair. Step 4. Conduct the post-mortem. We discussed this. Find the root cause. Step 5. The micro-win. You need to rebuild confidence. Do not try to conquer the world the next day. Set a tiny goal. Make your bed. Go for a walk. Send one email. Achieve one small thing. This releases dopamine. It reminds your brain that you are capable of success. Stack small wins on top of each other until you have a ladder to climb out of the hole. Step 6. Share the story. Vulnerability is a connector. When you are ready, tell someone about your failure. Do not sugarcoat it. You will be amazed at what happens. They will likely say, "Me too." You will find connection in your brokenness that you never found in your perfection. Chapter 11. The Legacy of Failure. We are nearing the end of our time together, and I want you to think about the legacy you are leaving. If you have children, or if you mentor others, or simply through the example of your life, what are you teaching them about failure? If you hide your mistakes, you teach them that perfection is the standard. You set them up for a lifetime of anxiety. But if you own your failures, if you laugh at them, if you learn from them openly, you give the people around you permission to be human. You teach them that it is safe to try. You teach them that love is not conditional on success. Imagine a world where we celebrated Failure Fridays, where we went around the dinner table and asked, "What did you fail at this week?" and cheered for the effort. Imagine a company where the CEO stood up and listed their bad decisions before listing the profits. It would be a world with less fear and more innovation, less anxiety and more courage. You can create that world in your own home, in your own team, in your own heart. Chapter 12. The Eulogy of the Old Self. To truly embrace failure, you must be willing to let parts of yourself die. Every failure kills a version of you. The you that thought you were invincible dies. The you that thought that relationship would last forever dies. The you that believed that business plan was perfect dies. Let them die. Hold a funeral for them. Thank them for their service. And then introduce yourself to the new you. The new you is smarter. The new you is humble. The new you has scars, yes, but scars are just skin that is tougher than it was before. The Japanese have an art form called kintsugi. When a valuable ceramic bowl breaks, they do not throw it away. They put it back together using a special lacquer mixed with gold dust. The cracks are not hidden. They are highlighted in gold. The bowl becomes more beautiful and more valuable because it has been broken. You are that bowl. Your failures are the gold lacquer. They are the unique lines that tell your story. Do not paint over them. Do not hide them. Wear them. Shine them. The final thank you. As we conclude this journey, I want you to take a deep breath. Think of the biggest failure weighing on your heart right now, the thing you regret, the thing that makes you cringe. Visualize it. Now, speak to it. Say, thank you for the lesson. Say, thank you for the humility. Say, thank you for redirection. Say, thank you for making me who I am. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is the raw material of success. It is the darkness that defines the light. It is the silence that allows the music to be heard. So, go out there. Make mistakes. Make big, beautiful, disastrous mistakes. Try things you are not ready for. Ask for things you might not get. Fall down. And when you hit the ground, before you even stand up, whisper it to the earth. Thank you.